FearWorm Wormhole. Haunted house marketing, special guests, and education. Dive into haunt marketing with us, where every scare is a strategic opportunity, and each moment drives success. The haunt industry's leading podcast on all things business and marketing. The FearWorm Wormhole starts now.
Well, hello everybody, and I'm here with Ernest. Welcome back to the Wormhole here with the Team FearWorm. Ernest,
it's been a long time. I'm really excited about this. I can't even remember the last one we did. I guess last summer, maybe.
I believe you're right. Technically, I think this is like season 5, I think, of the Wormhole. But Ernest, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about the year we've just had and what that means for the coming year. You know, this was even if you were really successful this year, it was a hard year. I mean, it was a really hard year. Lots of work, lots of changes, lots of pivoting. And I want to kind of go through that and what we saw that worked, what we saw that maybe didn't work. And then looking forward to next year, like planning now. What are the things we can do? And number one, like I hope people watch, and I hope they are planning now, and I hope they start thinking about it, because everybody waits to freaking July and starts trying to do it and then cram it in. It's like, no, there's a lot of things we can do now. Maybe we should touch on that as well. Like, what can you do Q1, right? What can you do in Q1 besides just, go on a binger for 3 months? Like, let's actually, instead of spending 3 months at Disney World, let's what can we be doing?
I take offense to that.
Yeah. Yeah, you represent that.
We were just there. But
yeah, that's what I want to talk about, and also kind of introduce, a couple people of our team to the wormholes that haven't been on before.
For sure, because we definitely have some new people. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on all the FearWorm team. Let's start with, of course, everybody knows FearWormer. Well, if I can find her, let's see. Let's start with Tashana. So everybody knows Tashana. She's been on the Wormhole before. Hey, Tashana, how are you?
Good. How are you?
We're doing all right.
All right.
Let me get in. Let's
you lose people?
I think I lost Laura.
Oh, wow.
All right. Well, I'll bring in a new person to the team. We'll start with Andrew. Bring him in here. Andrew is a creative. He's a content creator for FearWorm. Helps us on many things. Video editing, graphic design. We've jumped into social media, all those things. So
people may recognize Andrew as well. He's been in the industry for a long time.
It's been a while. Yeah. Been here for a long time.
He's crashed your party somewhere at Transworld.
That is definitely true.
I think we got Laura back. Let's bring Laura in. And everybody knows Laura.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, Facebook decided to kick me out because I was also logged in as FearWorm, or trying to be. Yay. Gotta
Good
love
job,
Meta's
Laura.
changes.
Our social media person can't figure it out.
Yeah, it's super fun, learning every day.
And then, of course, last but certainly not least, who's been a big help this season. She came on kind of late, and she's kind of our what do we, Laura? What do we call
manager?
What do we call in summer? Is she our, the Munster? Who's the Munster?
Yeah, she's like the Marilyn Munster of the FearWorm team, and you will see why.
Yes. So without further ado, here is Summer, the newest FearWormer to our team. Welcome, Summer, to your first Wormhole.
And my first time ever doing anything like this. So here we go.
Cool. Well, we're going to turn it over to Summer. And Summer
I have everything planned out correctly.
Yeah, Summer's somebody I've known for a very long time, and we had talked about her coming to work with us in some capacity for a while, and it worked out in summer. Unfortunately for Summer, it started in June, which is not the greatest time to have a crash course in haunted attractions, but boy, has she ever had that. So I think
it was very much like, who needs training? Just dive in, figure it out on your own.
Yeah, I feel like we threw her to the werewolves, honestly. That's exactly what we did. So sorry, Summer.
See, at 18 years of doing this before, I was thinking about that. Personally, I want to be here. And personally, like I miss, because I hadn't been working for a little while, and I've missed my events and all you crazies. And it's fun working with people that are passionate and creative, and learning everything that I can from a new industry as far as events goes. So it's been fun.
Yeah, and Summer's also a farmer, so working with our entertainment clients.
Mhm.
So welcome everybody. I think Ernest, at this point, I'm gonna let you kind of take the reign, and we can start recapping this crazy year that was 2023 on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
But I'll let you go ahead and take the wheel here.
Yeah, well, we knew it was going to be kind of crazy, right? You're going into a political environment. The economy, starting about summertime was in a tailspin for the most part. The inflationary issues. Nobody had their free $1,200 from the government this year. It's just, it's almost like trying to be our first post-pandemic year is what it feels like. And everybody knows, like we had a meeting earlier today where the client's like, I know I got to just throw the pandemic years out. It's because everything was so different. But then we came into a year where the price pressures, are so hard on everybody. And so it was a tough year. And then we had a lot of weather problems. Your Northeast haunts, you can't even judge what you did. Did you do a good job? Did you do a bad job? When it rains every weekend, badly rains, there's just nothing you can do about it. So that's, is what it is. Except for think about, how do I have a better parking lot that's not as muddy next year? How do I build some covered areas so I could still open partially or something like that, right? But I want to talk about the things that, and maybe some things that weren't great this year, but how do we use that as a lesson learned and to be a better event next year, or better prepared? The one word I use all the time now is called pivot. And the new world in advertising marketing is pivot, because something's going to happen before next season, between now and then, that's going to make us pivot again. It might be some new ad source that comes out, or some kind of problem or economic thing or whatever. And we know we're going to be dealing with
an election.
The election always sucks, right? That never helps. So just be ready to pivot. That's what we did this year so much. It was like, give me an email, let's change this, let's do a deal, let's whatever. We were talking to somebody earlier today, and the competitive haunts in his market had dropped their prices down to $14 a ticket later on in the season. I don't agree with selling $14 tickets, because you set the precedence for that for the future.
Right.
But we also talked to that client about adding alcohol into their services, getting a liquor license or beer license, and trying to keep people there longer, make more money from the people you have. Because then if you sold the $14 ticket and you sold them another $14 in beer, then it's not a lost night, right? So pivoting is really important. I think everybody needs to be open to that. It's just something that's gonna happen.
I think the big thing we need to talk about, Ernest, and you kind of hit on it there a little bit, was the economy. I think that's a good place to start, because we know last year the economy tanked around August. It's like as we were going into fall, so it didn't really. I don't think it really hit people until that late October, November, going into the holiday season. But we knew it was tanking. But then it didn't get any better. It's like it tanked last year, and it's still tanked. Yeah. And so what's your thoughts on how the economy not only affected the haunted house industry, but I know we've talked about the entertainment industry as a whole.
Well, what we saw, and we worked with a lot of other kinds of clients too in entertainment, almost everything was down as a whole this year. Restaurants were down, everything. But a restaurant's down because the food costs went up so much. The prices are so high. You'll still go to a restaurant, but do you go every week, or do you go every other week? Or do you, how does that change things? I think with haunted attractions, a lot of what happened is your markets where people are used to going to a bunch of attractions may have just chose one event this year, So you better make sure you're the one event they go to. A lot of our big name Hallmark events still did well this year, because I think it's like, if I'm going to go to one place, I'm going to go to that really great one, right? And just not go to the others. So, we're dealing with that. I do have hope that the economy is actually going to get a little better next year. I know the economists are all like, oh, we're expecting recession or whatever. They're going to go back and look at it. We're already going to be in a recession. But the government's already announced something like 6 interest rate drops for next year. if the Democrats want any chance to win the election next year, the economy has to be in a better position or they have like zero chance. And so, but it made no difference for them to drop the interest rates this year because it's too far out from the election to help them. So they're going to hold those at the whole thing, our whole livelihoods and everything, just held
Only
up
when it's politically beneficial.
based on them having it politically beneficial. But I expect to see some of that next year. And, home sales is like, how does home sales affect haunted house attendants? It affects everything. Because everybody that works in that job, everybody who sells furniture or a painter or the gutter company or a landscaper or anything is all tied to that.
Yeah.
And they just stopped, right? Home sales stopped. Nobody's even heard yesterday. There should be 2 million homes on the market right now in the US, and there's 1 million homes. Nobody's put it on the market. Those interest rates drop, bam, it's going to be go time, which could be great, right? If that happens before next season, it'll be gangbusters, right? It drives everything. So yeah, the economy is what it is. We did see our affluent markets did better than our less affluent markets, but that's, if you only had $500 a month worth of disposable income before, and that didn't increase, that just got eaten up with your grocery bill. But if you had $4,000 worth of disposable income a month, you can still pay your groceries and still go entertainment, right? So, but we saw that pretty much across the board, right?
And I know I'm in the
demographic a little more.
And I know I'm in the demographic to where it's really in that core. I don't think I'm in the core haunted house demographic anymore, but I'm in the demographic now. Yeah, I know. But I'm in the demographic that had to restart paying student loans in October. And so it's like that's an extra $100 or more a month out of these budgets that, I think I read somewhere it takes about a year for someone to create like a new habit, especially when it comes to your money, your financial.
Yeah, adjusting your budget.
And we've gone 3 years without student loan payments. And so I think people's budgets have already readjusted. And so now it's like taking extra money out that now people don't have. And that's
and all those 20 somethings that are prime haunt goers, right? Prime attendees that all of a sudden are paying $400 a month
literally taking out loans to go see Taylor Swift.
That chick, I just don't get me started on her. For her to pick, I don't care if her number 13 is her lucky number. Do not pick our Friday the 13th in October. Oh,
but she's so pretty.
No,
I just I like despise her now because of this money that she's taken from everybody. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Here's the cool thing, though. We saw interest levels this year higher than we've ever seen, gauged on website visits, engagement with ads. Even places that were down considerably had this huge increase in interest. There's no waning interest in haunted attractions and horror and the like, right? People are
just waning cash, just waning budget.
Yeah, all of the shows, The Last of Us, and it all really got kicked off with Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So, and isn't that coming out next year, or is it the following year?
Next year it should be.
I think next year is the last season of Stranger Things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a big driver next year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're still in a good industry, right? And people can say, if you are the biggest businesses in the world were not built during upturns, they're built in downturns. It's people who take advantage of downturns and they grab market share during downturns, right? So who can step in and do that, right? Who can say, well, next year might not be the greatest year again. Cool, go grab market share, because when the market gets better again, you retain that market share.
And like all industries, I think I've noticed too, since about 2016, the entertainment business, especially haunts, have been on this upward trend, and not every year is going to be an up year. Every industry has their down years. And right now, entertainment as a whole, and this includes haunted houses, we're just in this correction of the down.
Well, yeah, everybody's like, well, 2020 I did so good. In 2021 I did even better. In 2022 I did the same or a little better, and now I'm down 5%. It's like, yeah, you're down 5% from a time period that was up 30 or 40% from before.
Right.
They're blips. Everything is, all businesses do not increase like that. Everybody does this.
Right.
I've been in business I've had my agency for going on 27 years. Every year has not been better financially than the year before, right? There are ups and downs. We saw Ben from Netherworld was talking about that, right? And they were down quite a bit, and he said they ended up down the season like 4 or 5%. But he's like, but it's still 4 or 5% off of last year. He's like, I'm not really complaining. It's still darn good business. So
for sure.
And
I know, and outside of the economy, of course, which is one thing that nobody here can control, but another thing that none of us can control is the weather. And this has seemed like a lot of areas, horrible year for weather, especially the Northeast. If you're from that, like the Maryland area up the coast, up the Northeast, it was just like rain.
Oh, and remember, 2022 was like the best weather year ever. Like 0 rainouts in most places. So you're also comparing a year. We have places they lose one big Saturday, they could be losing 15% of their annual revenue right there with one day. And you can say, well, they didn't get to go Saturday, so they'll come back on Sunday. Well, not necessarily. If that was the one day you had to go, that was the day you had to go. You know?
I think that's a big misconception when it comes to event operators. They think that, people will just come in the next day or the next weekend, when that's not how events work. Events work because that person has that one day they can go to your event. They try to schedule it, and if anything knocks it off course, whether it is money, lack of interest from friends or family, or weather, they're not going again at all. Now, some of your diehards will figure it out and come another day, but majority of people, it's like they got their one.
You might just not be able to, right? I mean, I've got a kid and I'm dealing with her stuff and family stuff and obligations, and if that was the one night I could go, that's the one night I could go. You know, it's you can't. Everybody else is not going to. I mean, as a business owner, you're looking at it and say, well, they didn't come tonight, so they should come tomorrow night. Well,
it's not how that works. And unfortunately, a lot of the majority of haunted house goers just want to go that Saturday before Halloween and just knock it out.
It doesn't even matter the price, right? People raise their rates 50%. They still sell out Saturday night and not the other nights.
The prices definitely matter. We can tell, and I'm sure, our haunt owners out there listening can tell, your prices matter early in the season. Your prices definitely matter on like Thursday, Sundays, stuff like that. But we know everybody is going to come late. Unfortunately, it gets difficult to manage that.
When we do look at next year, though, the beginning of our season will hopefully be a Friday the 13th in September, right?
That's a great
cool opportunity.
Next year, if you're watching right now and you didn't know this already, but next year we have another Friday the 13th during season, but it's in September. It's that early Thursday or that early Friday in September, Friday the 13th. And so if you're not opening that weekend, I definitely suggest doing a sale. Do a sale for opening weekend or for some time. Take advantage of that, spookiness that happens early.
Think of the press opportunity too, because everybody can get that press in September instead of we don't. The press is already going October 13th.
Right.
Tickets September 13th.
Right.
Any day. I think
and if you didn't know already too, I think Halloween next year is on a Thursday. I believe it is.
What was it? Yeah, it was a Tuesday. It's leap year, so it is going to Thursday next year. Which means the other opportunity is we feel that the season really can go through that weekend, and maybe the blackout night that you normally do the week after Halloween could even be a week further than that. Right. So you might be able to extend your season quite a bit.
Yeah. So we've talked about all these kind of like tumultuous things that happened this year. What I would like to do is ask everybody is like, what's their one takeaway from the year, from 2023? And I guess since we have some new people, Summer, let's start with you. And granted, I know your time with FearWorm was kind of like mid-year, like that June, July to now, but like, what was the one thing you took away from 2023?
Well, I worked in radio for the longest time. And so actually being with an agency that understands all different mediums of marketing, it's really opened my eyes to the way that consumers, people consume media. There's so many different ways, and you can do it with visuals. Obviously, that's a big deal. Music matters. And your sales and just the way that people have reacted to the messaging, to me, has been something that I've learned a lot about this year. And then the way that you manage that, how do you manage your inventory? How are you making sure that you're selling all of these tickets at the early part and then the late part and then on your Sundays, and really, listening to clients and trying to figure out, who exactly are you targeting? Where are you going to get the most bang for your buck? It's been fun. And that's probably the biggest takeaway for me, is just the consumption of media.
And you've never worked in like the horror Halloween space before. So this is like all brand new for you.
Brand new. It was all music for me. All radio, all music, all events in that kind of way. Something surrounding music. So
if you're watching now, just a heads up, Summer will be joining us for her first trans world convention in March. So she's going to be just looking around and all this stuff that we're all.
The other thing is, if anybody has any pranks they need to pull or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew's been to Trans World like 10 times or something.
Before they let you on the floor, you have to prove that you have a Halloween tattoo. So Summer, you need to go get a tattoo.
That's correct.
No tattoos. 0 tattoos for this girl.
I have 0 tattoos. I'm not getting
0.
I'm just teasing her.
Guys.
I'll get a fake. I know y'all are gonna have to help me with outfits and stuff. I'm the color girl here. I'm the color.
We didn't tell you, everybody has to have a blue pumpkin on them tattooed.
Yeah.
Or you can't.
Just do you, wear whatever makes you comfortable. You don't have to, come in spiky, anything spiky or leather.
Leave that to Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, don't wear spiky leather things.
Laura, you can't tell us you don't pre-plan your outfit for every day of Trans World ahead of time.
She totally does.
I'm not saying that.
So
and I'm horrible with names, so whenever I do meet all of our clients, I'm probably going to be like,
I'm the same, Summer. I'm just like, hey, you. I remember everybody's face, but I cannot remember names. But another new person to the team, but not a new person to the industry, is our King Boo himself, is Andrew.
King Boo.
We're gonna give him a crown he can wear. It says King Boo on it.
So Andrew, of course, I know we said this a long time ago. Welcome to FearWorm, and this is your first wormhole. But, what was, like I asked Summer, what was your takeaway? You were with us a bit longer this year. What was your takeaway for the year?
Yeah, so I think this year was a whirlwind. It was crazy, and I think AI and the technology and how fast things are moving, because technology always moved fast before, but it's been an exponential growth now that I think has also helped us in a huge way and will help a lot of people, but just keeping up with it in general was such a difficult task, but also just being able to do a lot more things. And I think the future is going to be super, super bright for everything, just because of how many things we can do with the new technologies, where to put it, streamlining things. I just think that is a great way to go in the future, and what we can do with it is really, really cool.
You bring that up, Andrew. The volume of what we did this year in some ways would almost been hard to do without that. Even though we're not throwing AI things out there, the assistance it gives you to get a starter for something, some text or some, idea.
I think that's the big thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because we've definitely seen AI used the wrong way this year. And then I think the best case is where, like Ernest saying, is when it's an assistance to other things, not just its own standalone thing. I think is when it's best used.
It's like the best personal assistant you could ever have. That's how you use it to grow,
Right. And I'm definitely excited to see it grow more into, because like we've seen the AI art, the AI videos, the AI voice. I'm excited to see it move into a space where it's like, in my realm of things, like the media buying, like the reporting, like what is it that AI can tell me that I'm not seeing because I'm looking over here at these 50 clients? What am I missing over here that AI can tell me or recommend? That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to allow you to do all kinds of. We're going to be able to see things that we never saw before with AI, and we're going to be able to then hone in and then create campaigns that are even more narrow, that specific. Yeah. We're going to be able to get so specific, it's not even funny, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome for everybody.
No, I'm excited. And then, of course, Tashana, what was your big takeaway from this year?
I think my big takeaway is that like planning ahead is super important. And I think that is particularly so when it comes to figuring out what kind of deals you're going to offer and when. I think that the tendency is to realize like, oh no, we're down, tickets aren't selling, and then put in a deal at the last minute. And what I saw, at least as far as emails go, that emails that go out earlier in the season perform better, and emails that go out with a deal perform better. So why not combine that? If you plan ahead of time what you're going to do for your deals, use that leverage and that momentum earlier in the season to push your deals. Then you'll be more successful. So I think that was my big takeaway: is plan ahead, know what you're going to do, be proactive and not reactive. And that'll work out.
That's a great point. I think this year was a horrible year for everyone acting like they were reacting. I think just because given the economy or weather, and being reactionary is one of the worst things you can do for you personally, like in your life, but also as like a business person. I mean, there's one thing, to say one thing is like, how quickly can we pivot on this? But like to just be reactionary and be like, oh, we got to do this and this and this, but like, it's never going to work in your favor, and it oftentimes becomes a waste of money.
Right.
And so I'm glad you brought that up.
I'd reiterate on that too, right? Expectations were a real problem this year. The year started out pretty bad and people were freaking out. We had to keep a lot of people from, making those knee-jerk reactions to shoot themselves in the foot. We have one person who actually did it and was like, I'm just going to stop everything and I'll get what I get this year. I bet you that guy lost $500,000 easily, if not more. And dumb decisions, right? Don't do that. Don't knee-jerk. Things happen. Totally pivot, change, react to it. Do what you need to do, and don't. It's the throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. It's like, don't hurt yourself just because you have one panic. If you have a good event, you're in the right market, you're in the right location, you're confident with your creative and all those things. Pivot. But don't freak out and just start throwing. It's like, oh, it's the same techniques I used last year and the year before and the year before. But all of a sudden, this 1 week it didn't work. So let's stop it all. Well, that's crazy, right? That's crazy. Right. Be smart and don't get ahead of yourself on things.
Laura, now we're jumping to you. So what was your big takeaway for the year?
Yeah. So professionally speaking, with social media, I mean, with it being this down economy and everything, we're seeing a lot more bots and stuff like that are trying to, scam pages. We see fake merch, and they're getting faster at it. They are getting faster at these things. Let me tell you, with one specific brand, I mean, it was like 10 minutes and all of a sudden they had a website up. And that's probably because they're using tools like AI and stuff to help them, get faster. So you definitely want to be careful, make sure that you're on guard for that kind of stuff. And, there's certain things that we did to kind of make sure that, those comments were kind of hidden right away. You can do that on Facebook using moderation assist. So that was something that was kind of huge this year. I think also another takeaway for me is, you guys were kind of talking about like this knee-jerk reaction, kind of panic feeling. And, as a marketer, servicing clients, we feel that on our side too, because we want you guys to do well. We want things to perform, and we work so hard to like, make the things for you, so we want them to do well. So we kind of, to me, it's like you jump in and you want to do a new deal or a special or something. But to me, there is a point where you're doing too much. There's a point where you're creating too much content, you're trying too hard, and it can really hurt the performance on some of those other pieces. And so you're working really hard and you're creating this stuff, but then, you post 3 or 4 of them in a day or something like that. And you really can see in the engagement that it has suffered because of that. So to me, I mean, this is not really a new concept, but quality, quality over quantity, definitely with most of these things. we want to make sure that performance is still, in our sights, and we're making sure that you guys are, reaching the people that you need to reach. And if you try to do too much and freak out, it really can hurt you in the long run.
Yeah, I know. I think I agree. I was there with you when I was seeing all these bots. And I think in this down economy, that makes it worse. I think more people are out there trying to scam people because they don't have the money. Like they're just trying to rob people of tickets or, fake chargebacks from their online tickets or things like that. Like it's just ridiculous.
Oh yeah, chargebacks were a big deal.
Yeah.
Big problem.
Ernest, before we jump to you and your takeaway for the year, I'll jump in and say, and only because Andrew kind of took mine, because I was going to bring up AI. And then Tashana was kind of leading with the expectations and things. So I'm like, I've been struggling to think of like what my main takeaway was. But I think going back to to me, this year showed us that the interest for these events is still really high. From looking at my side of things and looking at the, end of year reports for all the clients, and then just talking to other people within the industry that's not a client, or even, entertainment operators and other industries. It's like, oh yeah, our website traffic was up, all the marketing data is up and performing well. And this year we had some of our highest web traffics and click-through rates on ads that we've ever seen. So it's like the interest is there. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, to me, it was so disheartening to hear when a client comes in and says, oh, well, they're not selling, it's not selling tickets. And I know part of me is like, well, my job is to just get the click. And then once they're in your website or in your ticketing, I can't force someone to buy a ticket, of course. But we saw huge cart abandonments this year. We saw increases in web traffic, with which that's great. Increases in clicks and click-through rates, that's great. But man, it's just like, it was so frustrating that people just weren't showing up. People just weren't going to events. And I'm just like, it kills me. And so I'm like, I don't know if I'm still depressed from that, because it was really like I said, it was very disheartening to see that, and to hear clients and to talk to clients on the phone. And it's just like, and I'm just at a point where I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know how to help. I don't know what to do. It's one of those situations. And I'm just like, I wish I could control the weather for you, but I can't,
We had some clients who, had made a really big investment in their creative, and everything was looking super great. They did everything right.
Yeah.
And it was such a slap in the face, I think, to see how that event we just were expecting, this big show. And one thing that did come out of the season for clients like that, I mean, they had the best reviews they've ever had. People were loving the event and all of that. So it's important to remember that you do have, just because it was a down year, you do have some positive takeaways. Yeah. There's probably really great reviews that you had because maybe your lines weren't super crazy and people were loving it. You could slow things down and really give them a good show, right? Either that, or if you had last year or this year made the investment in your creative, and maybe you did some crazy, big, awesome shoot and you've got all these great pictures and video. Well, hey, guess what? That's an expense you don't have to have next year. So you've got all of that great media in your pocket, and you've got the time now to figure out how you're going to leverage that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Ernest, turning to you now, what was your one big takeaway from 2020?
One big takeaway, we've been talking about this for a couple of years, and it is proven to be a fact. In fact, there's some data we just got from IAPA that backs it as well, is the bigger your event is, not bigger in size, but bigger in scope. You've got multiple haunted houses, a trail, a maze, bonfires, food trucks, a midway, all of these things. The more you have to offer, the bigger the value equation, the better you're going to do. And it surpasses the money issue, because people don't want to pay $40 to go to your place, wait in line for 10 minutes and be done in 25 minutes. They would rather pay $80 to spend the whole evening there. And they'll be so happy that they'll play the games, they'll buy the shirt, they'll buy the beers, they'll buy the food, and spend 3 hours. Now, everybody can't do that. Everybody doesn't have the space. everybody doesn't have the parking. But if you have the space and you don't have the parking, then do like Fear Factory does and create the zombie bus that drives you in, that it actually makes that whole experience. That's part of the value equation.
Those zombie buses are cool.
Right. IAPA, we got a bunch of data from IAPA, and it basically said that, like, make a bigger deal. People will pay for experiences. I mean, the things that people didn't have trouble selling this year were the VIP tickets. The people with money bought the ticket and they bought the VIP, right? The Halloween Horror Nights or whatever, Universal did some Groupons apparently, but it wasn't on their VIP tickets. It was on the cheaper tickets, right? So, and we've been saying this, and the clients who have doubled down on this have seen just huge benefits from it. The other thing is you're giving something for all ages to do. We had this conversation with somebody this morning, creating something for mom and dad to do so they can hang out while the kids are going through the attraction, right? And making it more of a family affair. We have some people that added some more kind of family friendly attractions this year. Super successful. Okay, I'm going to say second thing then, as part of that is family friendly attractions killed it.
And what I've seen here in some of the comments, I mean, Rick said, people are going this year that they went to one haunt rather than 2 or 3. And that one haunt that they're going to be picking is going to be the one where they can spend the most time and feel like they've got the most value. So it was just a fact this year. Yeah,
this year the value proposition was the deciding factor. I don't really think people thought about things like quality or things like that. Like, it was price. People were so price driven.
To an extent, but really premium events, right? The Pennhurst Asylums and Fear Factories and people like that. Those were the ones. But it's also, if I go to one event, I'm going to go to Fear Factory if I'm in Salt Lake City, right? So it's being that, and that's kind of, I say like my one thing. Well, here's my other big takeaways is don't let your expectations and your knee-jerk screw you up to mess up your full funnel marketing approach. Because the biggest guy, everybody's always like, well, I want to be like Fear Factory. I want to do that. Oh, but I just want to do Facebook ads and Google. Well, then you can't be like Fear Factory because they've built this brand, or Pennhurst or Netherworld or any of these biggies. And you can say, well, I just want to do digital. You can be full spectrum in digital. You have display, you have streaming video, long form video, YouTube, you have digital audio, you have all kinds of things you can do just within the digital world if you want to stay out of radio, stay out of billboards or whatever, to build that full funnel approach. And are you going to see these tremendous results year one? Not necessarily, but year 2, year 3, year 4, then you have a crap year like this year was, and you're still going to be up while everybody else takes it in the teeth because you're the ones they want to go to, right? And this isn't just haunted attraction. I've been doing this for 30 freaking years, right? 31 years. It's marketing 101. And the mediums may change, but marketing 101 doesn't change, right? If you want to be the big guy, then you have to get into all those things. And if you don't do that, you're probably never going to be that big guy.
I think what you said of having something that both mom and dad and the teenagers can do all at the same event, because like mom and dad may not necessarily want to go through the attraction, the kids will, but like if mom and dad can buy a drink or have a snack while waiting, it's like, I think that's a big thing. We were talking to the boys up at 13th World, and they created a bar.
Yeah, what they've got going is perfect, right?
They created a bar this year. That was their new thing this year. They had a bar, they sold alcohol, they had these specialty cocktails, and it was great. It was a huge success for them, and it was one of the contributing factors that saved them, So really consider those things to make that event for everyone, is when I go to the Renaissance Fair, what are we doing? We're drinking mead and eating turkey legs. Like, that's the tradition,
We're going through the Monster Museum. That's fun too.
Depending on the Renaissance Fair you go to, yes. That Monster Museum is really cool, though. I don't know.
But I mean, so take those ideas and build a miniature Renaissance fair at your haunt in the attraction, and have turkey legs and meat and whatever, and axe throwing.
Everyone
and
whatever.
And if your haunt has like a big castle facade, then in front of that is where, and call it the peasant village or whatever, and it's where you go to, But I mean, but just be fun with it, right? And then I'm too old for the normal haunted attraction kind of audience, but I'll go to an event right?
Mhm.
I want to go see something fun. So doing that event, you take your prime target of 14 to 29-year-olds and bam, you know, you add everybody else.
There's Ernest. He'll see you in the beer garden.
I'll see you in the
Yeah.
beer garden.
Music and beer or bourbon.
If you need me, I'll be in the beer garden.
Oh.
So we've all recapped 2023. I think now that we have a couple minutes left on this wormhole, let's look ahead to 2024, because next year is looking to be, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but like just as tumultuous as this year.
Well, we also have some questions, Tyler. So
oh yeah. Well, would you all like to?
Well, something else I wanted to mention that we saw successful this year that is something people should think about now for next year is doing special events throughout the season. Special nights that are one night only things, because you'll have an audience that may want to come back and have some bounce back capability, or the person that's not necessarily into haunted houses, but you have the slasher night and they're totally into horror movies, so they want to go to that.
Right. An asylum, great example of that.
Yeah, but don't wait. Like our whole thing, if you're one of our clients, we're going to be hitting you up in January as far as we're building your calendars out. These are your sale dates. Summer's going to be on your ass. These are your sale dates. These are the nights we're doing special things. Let's get it together. So it's not last minute half-ass. Let's like make it great, because all of those things is what's winning. You know, This is not the industry. We've been in this for 11 years now. It is not the industry it was 11 years ago. 11 years ago, it was a haunted house industry. It is the entertainment industry.
Yep.
And
don't wait to November to do a special event. Like you said, do it during your season. Do it on a Thursday. Do it on a
September 13th. Kick it off. You know, do that. You know?
Yeah.
And Friday 13th. Isn't there another one? Isn't there one in May or June?
December.
Oh, it's December. Okay.
But
there's everyone's Christmas event next year.
Yeah. If you got one night, if you're doing a horror event, you're doing one night or whatever, then do that one.
So did we want to tackle a few questions, or do we want to move into 2024?
I think we should do questions, but that's up to Ernest.
Not up to me. Questions.
Okay.
All right. So our friend Amber here wants to know, what would you consider too much content? I think this was back when Laura was talking about social media.
Yes, Amber. And I saw your comment too, that you also plan out your outfits. Thank you for making me not feel so alone over here. Okay, Ernest. So anyways, Amber, content-wise, there's so many different factors, I think, that play into that. You know, it really depends on the event, how much you have to talk about. You know, is this the type of event where you have multiple attractions? You've also got a midway, you've got a merch shop, you know, you've got other things that you sell, you know, vendors, maybe is there a psychic that is reading tarot cards at your event? Whatever it is, right? When you have all of that stuff to talk about, I mean, that's going to be a lot of content, but I think spacing it out is important. If we're talking about in one day, I mean, I would just say, look at your analytics, because every event is going to be different. Look at your analytics, and on a day that you've posted 4 or 5 posts, maybe they are a few hours apart, but go back and look, you know, do you notice that you have a dip in engagement? You know, were the impressions somehow halted? Did it not really reach anybody? Because then I would look at all 4 or 5 of those posts, and I would look at the comments and kind of add all of that together and just say, look, I could have done 4 or 5 posts that performed this way, or maybe I could have done 2 posts, or, you know, maybe 3 at the most, or something that would have performed even better on each one. To me,
quantity isn't better if the posts aren't better. You know, if you're just throwing stuff out, that's not value.
Right.
You know? And
I will say too, Amber, you know, if you would like for us to look at your page, you can hit us up at on the FearWorm Messenger. Just send us your page name or a link to your page, and we can do a quick little audit for you. But I will say this, you know, it's going to be different for every brand. But one thing I did see this year that performed super well, that I think would be okay if you did post a little more of, would be like those organic, in the moment, candid kind of shots that really show the feeling or the vibe, if you will, of your event. Those as stories and stuff like that, we're doing really, really well.
When you can do a lot of reels and stories without bothering people too much, right? So.
Absolutely. Reels too. do
That was-
And wouldn't you say, Tyler, I know your comment on that is one word based on how much content should you do is frequency. Like,
frequency.
you got to get frequency on a message. If you have 100 different messages going and everybody sees it once, then that's a one frequency. Like, you
Right.
need to make some continuity.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the KPIs we have for clients every year, depending on the platform. But I always try to aim for frequency. You know, get in front of people as many times as you can.
Well, people could say, "Oh, I reached 1 million people." Yeah, one time. Have you ever seen an ad one time and gone and bought whatever that was? No, nobody does. Right. And in the digital world, they used to say in radio it was 3 times. I always said it was 7 times. And in the digital world, it's more like 18 or 20 times that you have to see something before you act. So yeah, remarketing. And if you break up your just saying, oh, I ran 500 pieces of content, well, you'd be better off running 10 quality ones, putting some money behind it and making sure everybody has
That's exactly right. I mean, and that goes back to your comment about full spectrum digital. You know, it's because it can be hard to build frequency if Google is your only platform that you use. You know, so you can build frequency on things like Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, you know, OTT, YouTube, and Spotify. All these things can help you build frequency. That way, your customers like, man, yours is everywhere. Like, we saw your ads everywhere. That's what you want.
That's the best comment you can ever get from a client. Is you guys were everywhere, and the minute people start losing track of wherever they even heard of you from, then you've reached a saturation, which is perfect, right? It's where you want to be.
Had another question here. It says that seems like off-season events are very popular, Christmas, St. Patty's Day, etc. Are you seeing the same thing, or are they gaining interest? I think yes.
Especially Valentine's, St. Patty's, Christmas, whatever, the random event. Well, I don't know. We saw the slasher events last year that were real successful. And those
I mean, Dark Hour they did Dead by Dark Hour. They introduced that last year, and it was very popular. But again, I think this all goes back, especially right now, to how's the economy, how's the market. You know, because even in, you know, Christmas time, you know, I think events are generally down unless you're a well-established light drive-through family event that everyone goes to and that's their tradition. You'll be fine.
You know, and I guess it's also about staying relevant too, right? I mean, I know that we can do some things on social, but do you want to keep people out there? Do you want to get people back out there to get eyes on something new? That's always important.
Yeah.
I mean, staffing though, I mean, we've talked about that too, you know, sometimes it's a challenge to get staffing. So we've got to weigh everything out. And
the off-season events will help keep staff engaged, keep building that repertoire amongst your staff and create that kind of family atmosphere that you see that you want, you know.
I like the off-season events if they present something different. I think that's why like Dead by Dark Hour was so successful, because Dark Hour is not normally a touch haunt. And they kind of added this element of, you know, okay, these horror movie slasher type characters are stalking you the entire time. And when they get you, they like tap you with one of those little stickers, like you can actually get slashed. It was more exciting for the market because they hadn't experienced that before.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Chris, I'm going to hold your comment towards the end because I do want the team to look forward and look ahead to 2024. So I know next year, if you didn't know already, next year is an election year. Now, Ernest, historically, what does an election year mean for your marketing?
It means it's more expensive. And it's lost in a sea of messages. Just like when you talk about email marketing, right? You still need to do email marketing, but you might get an extra 20, 30, 40 emails in your box, depending on where you live next October, right? And the competition for space on Facebook, on Instagram, there's only so many ads they can run. And when the political dollars come in, it means it's going to cost you more per thousand. Spotify is going to cost more per thousand. Streaming is going to cost more per thousand. The only thing that's not going to is Google search terms for haunted houses, because that doesn't have anything to do with political.
Right.
But yeah, it makes it more expensive. And so you got to pay to keep your frequency and it creates a lot of clutter and a lot of eyeballs. They're distracted, you know. A lot of
I think we're going to have a lot of ad rejections next year, more so than normal, because I know Facebook just put it out that they're starting to crank up. At least that's how I read it. They're starting to crank up, you know, the AI algorithms for filtering out political content.
Don't do any ads that say vote for this, vote for me.
Yeah.
Don't do anything that has political overtones to it.
Yep.
Don't think that you're going to be funny and do zombie Donald Trumps or something, because you'll probably get flagged for political and it won't run.
Yep.
We even got flagged for political one year when it wasn't even political at all. It was like a werewolf in a patriotic vest. So it was for the 4th of July, and it got flagged for political just because of the flag. So be careful.
Yeah, I mean, but I have to go back to what Ernest is saying. Like in that digital world, and the elections happen in November, which means in October is when it's going to be at its peak, like craziness, and it's going to be that fight for eyeballs. And so what that tells me is that your creative better be amazing. That the day of or the year of crap creative, anything shot with a cell phone, out. Like it all has to be good. Like it has to be amazing for it to really cut through that political clutter that we're going to have next October.
It's made me think of a post we need to do next year. It's like a bowl full of eyeballs that have been like ripped out of their head. And it's like, this year is going to be a fight for eyeballs.
Eyeball fight. But yeah, I mean, so, and of course, we hope, I know they announced some interest rate drops coming up. I hope that still happens. And I hope the economy starts to turn better next year. If y'all don't know me, I'm a very glass half empty person. So it's just like, I don't see it getting any better. And then you throw on the election stuff on top of that. I'm just looking at like another, disappointing year, but I hope I'm wrong.
You're always doom and gloom.
I am. I very much am.
Yeah.
And then of course I know, aside from industry kind of season, I know FearWorm has a busy year in 2024 because we're doing a few different trade shows. I know we're going to the summer. I'm going to have you on this. I can never remember their name.
NAFDMA.
That is Agritainment convention.
Agritourism conference.
Agritourism, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the first week of February. It's in Boston. NAFDMA. Is that it?
Right? Yeah.
NAFDMA.
Pack your cold weather gear.
Yeah. If you spell it one letter differently.
Not
what was it, Tyler? You spelled it one letter different. And what was it?
Oh, it was the National Association of Funeral Directors. It was a whole different thing.
I mean,
also pretty cool though.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know it existed. So
really exciting, a lively bunch.
So if you're going to that show, we'll see you there. Of course, we'll be at the big Transworld Halloween and Attractions show in St. Louis in March. And then we will, of course, be at the new East Coast Haunters Convention in the Philadelphia area, where we have some awesome clients that are part of tours on that show. So you have Penhurst Asylum, you have Reaper's Revenge. And so we'll see you at that show. And then I think and I hope we're trying to squeeze in IAPA at the end of the year. But no promises on that one yet. But I think we're going to try to be there. Mm-hmm. So a busy year for FearWorm, as like another busy year. 2020.
So, the agritourism thing, bringing that up real quick, that has to do with anything that is. I mean, a winery is agritourism. Yeah. A pumpkin lavender patch farms. Is the lavender farms, but it's also using your farm for haunted trails, for those kind of things, the pumpkin patches and all that. And if you have that space, think about it. That is an industry. I read a quote on it. It was like, it's like a worldwide, like a $23 billion industry, and they expect it to be like 30 billion in the next 7 years. Yeah. It is a hugely growing industry. People want to know where their food comes. They want to, that kind of thing. People are doing dinners, doing whatever. You got this farm. Should you really just use it 5 weeks out of the year, or find some other things things to do with it, you know.
Your potatoes have come from the haunted farm.
But you know, like it's just, and people want to escape, right? The more we're in the digital world, the more they want the escape and real life stuff, right? They want to go, you know, analog for a bit. So consider that event. If so. Oh, other thing, did we talk about our seminars and stuff yet? No, I guess not. I guess we don't talk about that yet.
All right, so are you referencing the Transworld convention?
Yeah.
We've not talked about it yet. We can tease, but I don't think, because nothing's been announced. And so I want to keep, because it's a big one. It's awesome.
Okay. That'll be the tease then.
For Jen's sake. Jen, if you're watching, Jen, for your sake, we'll keep it under wraps for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a big seminar that's happening at Transworld that we're a part of, and we're so excited because it's a topic that normally doesn't get talked about, and we'll leave it at that.
Hey, there's a question on here I want to go ahead and address. Chris Patty asks, first year outdoor walkthrough trail this year. What are some must-haves for second year to make sure the customer gets the experience and wants to return following years? I would say second year in, you still need to, because usually first year things are like, you're just getting open. It's not the final event you're going to have. It's not the biggest event. Expand it and say there's new things, right? All new. And then tap into that data you have because you've already built a base, right? You've started getting some emails or getting some mobile IDs or whatever they are to retarget, right? But wouldn't you guys say that it's like second year, you got to be saying there's still new stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's expanding.
I mean, when you're that second year growth, you're at that point, you're still growing the event. You know, I think not until you hit that year 4 or 5, you can actually pull back on the attraction investment. But you're still building and figuring out, what is this show? What is this experience?
Yeah.
And you're still learning a lot of things. Like you're not going to learn it all your first year, you know? And so you're still learning. And so the best thing you can do is just keep your eyes open and pay attention to not only other events, other shows, other similar shows, other entertainment as a whole, what your market is doing. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Ernest, like on the marketing side, list building is so important. And really, you should start list building year 1, you know, but definitely if you didn't, start doing it year 2.
I feel like with a brand new event like that, you know, one of the biggest challenges that you face first and second year in is awareness. You know, people need to know what your brand is, you know, what type of event it is. And they need to know, you know, not only what to expect there, but where you're located, you know, what other people have thought about it. So I think social media speaking, if I could give you any tips, I would say definitely look for some UGC or some user generated content that you captured this year, you know, for your event that people had gone through and they just loved it. You'll want to capture those pieces and have those in your pocket come next season.
Chris, I just saw your comment. List building is basically creating that customer database, names, phone numbers, emails, things like that. Because you own that. You know, if your brand solely exists on Facebook, you don't own your business. Facebook owns your business. And if Facebook was to ever go away, there goes your business. And so always
the only thing you own is your data list and your website, right?
So that's what we mean by list building. And I know, Chris, you had another question earlier, was basically you said, you notice that the big haunts get a ton of business. So how do small haunts stay alive if people are choosing to go to one big haunt, you know, rather than the other haunts? That's difficult. You know,
be unique enough.
Yeah.
Right. And then at first you can't go in at the same price they are.
No, yeah.
If they're $40 and you think you're going to be $40 and you've only been around for a year and it's half as long, you can't be that. You know,
if a haunt in your market's been there for 10 years and this is your first year, the haunt will always be 10 years ahead of you, you know? And so that's on audience, that's on growth, list building, all that stuff. And so you just need to be different, be unique enough, have a better value proposition if that's possible. Because I know sometimes these bigger shows, they do have the big midways and the multiple attractions and the bars with the alcohol sales. And so it's difficult.
So bring in a food truck park, or do some live music, or do something else that's just do, clown takeover nights, whatever it is, to just be different, that will have a certain market that will go, oh, I've got to go to that. Even though I went to the big guy, I'm still going to go check him out.
And I would say too, really think about your market, and look at your competitors. Let's say some big competitor, that's, getting this, all these people coming out and stuff like that. They've been around for a lot of years and you're competing with that. Look at them. Do they charge for parking? Do you have free parking? Maybe, anything that you can use to tell your audience like, hey, this is a better value. That will also help.
A great example of that would be looking at, say, like two very similar competitive giants in the Orlando market. Look at what Universal Studios and those parks do compared to the Disney parks. Look at the audiences they get; they're vastly different, but you're competing for that same Florida tourism dollar, and just look at that and see how they can coexist. And how that's working. Of course, competition, I believe, is always a great thing. When you have two entertainment businesses that are competing against each other, your customers win. The fans win, and so that's always going to be a good thing. But guys, that wraps up this wormhole. We're here at the end. I didn't see any other questions. We've recapped a terrifying 2023, and we're looked ahead at a potentially tumultuous 2024. Any last comments? Any last words here?
Well, I mean, it sounds like we create a lot of gloom and doom, but somebody's going to win next year, and just be the one. If you prep and you do all that, like I said, bad economies is when you can really gain market share, and that market share doesn't go away. Be the winner. Yep. And when it's easy, it's like go be a real estate when agent when everything's going crazy and everybody's buying a house. You're like, oh, look how successful I am.
Super easy.
Ones that make it in the downturn that really make it, right? It's the same way, right? Be the successful event during, then gain 10% market share, and then when the market gets better, you have that 10%. And the person who had the new haunt, there's a 5-year business cycle. I always say with any new business, I don't care what you're selling, restaurants, whatever. First year is, can I stay in business? Second year is, can I make some money? 3, 4 to 5, you're still growing. But at year 5 is where it can take on a life of its own, and where you get enough referral business and you get that ball rolling. And if you're doing things right, then that's where you can really be successful. Everybody wants to be an overnight success story. And it's like, yeah, I took 5 years being an overnight success story. That's look forward to that. We lost you, Tyler. I can't hear you.
Sorry, muted myself. That's actually a great point. I feel like too many people get into this industry thinking that it's easy and that this is going to be this fun thing that they'll be super successful at, when nope, this is a business, and you got to treat it as such and give it the time that it needs to grow and succeed. I think that's a great point. So guys, that's it. That is today's wormhole. We will be sure that you pay attention to FearWorm Social as we start to announce future wormholes. I know our team is going to meet to figure out a schedule, where we have special guests on, seminars, things like that. I know we have a trans world discussion coming up. We'll have a few things happening. So again, Andrew, Summer, your first wormhole. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you. Ernest, thanks for being here. Yeah. And everybody have a wonderful day.
All right.
Bye.